as well as how many people got healed that night, just in the crowd. It was a phenomenal move of the Spirit of God that night. And so, amen, somebody asked me, and I said, well, if there was one night everybody should have been there, or if they could have been there, it would have been Friday night. I said, there was 2 nights that everybody should have been there, or could have been there. It says Thursday and Friday night. It was phenomenal. So it would be worth your money to call up there and order the DVDs, CDs, whichever one you prefer. And they say the day services were awesome. I wouldn't know, but the day services, we were slinging sausage patties and biscuits and fruit and lunch and everything else. But they say they were awesome too. Brother Gleason, Brother Woodward. And so I promise you, it will not waste your money. Somebody say amen.
Amen.
So for about the price of a good pair of shoes, you can get the DVDs. So do something for your spirit. Call up there and order those CDs and DVDs and sit down and watch them and listen to them. It'll feed your soul. Everybody say amen. Amen. Jesus said, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God. Don't take me wrong when I say this, but we are so, is it the word I'm looking for, anemic? Is that the word I'm looking for? Anorexic? Is that the word I'm looking for, where you can't gain no weight, whatever? Is that what I'm looking for? Is that anorexic? Don't know. We are so anorexic in our spirit, and we are so healthy in our flesh. And the reason is we feed our flesh more than we feed our spirit. And then we wonder why our walk with God suffers. The one you feed the most lives the most. Somewhere we gotta learn that flesh is gonna die one day. It's going to a grave. It's gonna go back to the dirt it came from, and the worms are gonna eat it up. But your spirit's gonna live forever.
So true.
Come on, somebody. So I promise you, you will not be disappointed in what you hear. If you have your Bibles, turn me to Matthew chapter 14. Matthew chapter 14. Amen. I will do my best to be quick this morning and give you what the Lord laid on my heart 2 weeks ago, and that way I can get you to Lotta Burger in time to get a hamburger. Matthew 14, verse 25. In the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea. He has fed the 5,000, and he has now told his disciples to get in a ship and cross the Sea of Galilee. And while they are there in the midst of that sea, there's a storm arises, and the boat's being tossed, and they're scared to death that they're going to die. And all of a sudden they look out across all of these waves, Sister Katrina, and this storm and this wind and this rain, and they see something, a figure. And it is then that Jesus, in the 4th watch of the night, which is about 3 o'clock in the morning, there were 4 Roman watches. It's from 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 3, and 3 to 6 in the morning. 4 watches. So somewhere between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning, they've wrestled all night long. So somewhere in that 4th watch, it says that Jesus went unto them walking on the sea, and the disciples saw him walking on the sea, and they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit, and they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And they still didn't believe it. They still didn't believe it. I'm going to prove they didn't believe it. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you. If it is you. So they still didn't believe it. Even after he spoke, they didn't believe it. If it is you, be it or command me to come unto thee on the water. And he said, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Look at your name and say, he walked on water. Now that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Can I tell you something that's more amazing than walking on water? I said, now, Brother Jourdan, how can it be more amazing than walking on water? What's more amazing is he got out of the boat. Can I tell you it was harder to get out of the boat than to walk on the water?
Come on, that's right.
Oh, that's it. Yes, it was. I promise you it was.
Yes.
There was more things to conquer in the boat than they were out on the water.
So true, so true.
When he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, began to sink. He cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and called and said unto him, O thou little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? When they were coming to the ship, look at somebody say, he walked on the water again. When they, not him, when they both walked back to the ship. The wind ceased. That's an amazing story, isn't it?
Yes, 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 yes.
I mean, Brother Royce, who would like to step out of the boat and walk on water? I mean, that's an amazing story. So for a few moments this morning, I want to talk to you about the risk factor. Get somebody to say, can you take a risk? The risk. I know, look at it and say, I know what you shout about. I know what you clap your hands over. But I'm not asking you, can you clap your hands? I'm not asking you, look at them, look at them, don't look at me. Say, I know you clap your hands. And I know you can shout about it. But can you take a risk? Can you take a risk? Because the fact is, nobody walks on water without taking a risk.
That's so true.
Clap your hands, lift your voice to the Lord. Come on, lift your voice to the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. God, you're so good. You're so good. Hallelujah. Amen. You can be seated. 56 men signed the Declaration of Independence. They all took a risk that day, and it sealed their future. It sealed them in history, these 56 men. Carter Braxton of Virginia, a wealthy planter and trader, saw his ships swept from the seas by the British Navy. He would have to sell his home and properties to pay his debt. He died a pauper. Thomas McKean served the Congress without pay. His family was kept in hiding for years. His possessions were taken from him, and poverty was his reward for signing the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Nelson Jr. would fire a cannon at his own house as the British General Cornwallis was there setting up headquarters. And he would turn a cannon toward his own house, and he would die a bankrupt man. Francis Lewis lost all he had. His wife was thrown into a damp, dark prison without a bed. There she died because of the conditions. His son would later die in British captivity in a prison also. Honest John Hart was driven from his wife's bedside as she lay dying, while the British troops invaded New Jersey just months after he signed the Declaration. He would flee his dying wife's bed to leave her to die alone. Their 13 children would fled for their lives. For more than a year, Hart lived in forests and caves, and finally returning home, he found his wife dead. He never found his children. They had vanished, and his farm was destroyed. And by the spring of 1779, John Hart was dead from exhaustion and a broken heart. New Jersey's Richard Stockton was betrayed by a loyalist, imprisoned and beaten and nearly starved. He returned home, he returned as an invalid to his home, gutted and everything burned. He too would never recover, and he too would die in 1781, a pauper. Only days after Lewis Morris of New York signed the Declaration, British troops ravaged his 2,000-acre estate. They butchered his cattle and drove his family from off the land. When the British seized the New York houses of the wealthy Philip Livingston, he sold everything else he had. He gave the money to the Revolution, and he died in 1778, a pauper. Arthur Middleton, Edward Rutledge, and Thomas Heward Jr. went home to South Carolina to fight the British. In the British invasion of the South, Hayward was wounded and all three were captured. As they rotted on a prison ship in St. Augustine, Hayward's plantation was raided, buildings burned, and his wife, who witnessed it all, would die. These and all the men, most of them would die paupers who had riches at one time. The richest man in America would die a pauper because he signed the Declaration of Independence. Many of them lost everything they had, but they believed in something greater than monetary goods. They believed in a cause that was beyond themselves. They had security, but they valued liberty more than security. So they stood tall, straight, and they unwaveringly, and they made a pledge. For the support of this declaration, we affirm reliance in the protection of the divine providence. And we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And because of the risk that they took that day, when they gave everything up, knowing that when they signed the Declaration of Independence, they sealed their future, and they sealed their doom, and they sealed themselves to a declaration that would cost them everything. But because of these men did what they did, you and I now can enjoy the freedom of this country that you and I live in. But it did not come without somebody taking a risk. Oh, come on, help me now. Men do not attain fame without taking risks. Risk takers. It doesn't appear to them like a risk. It just appears as something that is doable, and it needs to be done, and it has to be done. It is the other people who say he took a great risk and he failed or he achieved. But can I tell you right now that life itself is full of risk. Even the toddler takes a risk. When a toddler starts trying to walk, they will always be confronted with the risk of falling and busting their nose or their lip or blackening their eye and scratching themselves. But it's amazing that this baby, who has legs that barely can hold them up and wobble seemingly across the floor, will seemingly laugh and smile as they try doing that thing which they have never done before. It is us that get scared when they get close to the table. It is us that get scared when the dog runs in the room. But to the baby, it's worth every bit if I can achieve the thing that I was born to do. Come on, somebody. Can I tell you it's time you become a risk taker for Jesus? Amen. I'm going to preach. I'll preach to myself. You sit there. You see, the reason some people just sit there is because you've never taken a risk for Jesus. You've never done nothing out of the security blanket in which you lay under for years. But if we're ever going to do anything for God, you've got to put your name on the line and say, I'm just not going to clap my hands, Pastor, when you preach. I'm just not going to dance over what you say. I'm going to sign the declaration that says I'm going to have revival. And I'm going to have, come on somebody. Hell does not fear risk takers. There's nothing to fear from somebody who will not take a risk. He doesn't fear you because you speak in tongues. He doesn't fear you because you come sit on a pew every now and then. He doesn't fear you because you dance and you shout, because anybody can do that on a good day. But he does fear the one that looks at a neighborhood that's full of sin and debauchery and puts their life on the line and says, I'm going to take a risk for Jesus. Those are the people he fears. One man said this, if you're not willing to risk the unusual, you will have to settle for the ordinary. And we have too many ordinary apostolics in the church. Why? Because we've settled for the ordinary. Because we will not risk ourselves, our reputation or our name, or our time or our money or our resources for the unusual. It's amazing how many people do not mind frying chicken or buying chicken for a dinner. It's amazing how many won't give a dime to reach a neighborhood for Jesus.
That's right.
Come on, somebody. But if we're ever going to see the promise of God, this church, somebody's got to stand up and say, I'm going to put my name on the line, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to have revival. Another man said, he who risks nothing needs to hope for nothing in God. Because you're not willing to risk anything, don't expect anything. So a question must be asked today, not next year, not next week, not next month. The question has to be asked, are you a risk taker for Jesus? Or is the only time you can take a risk is when it pads your pocket? When it benefits you and you alone. Is that the only time you can take a risk? Because hell ain't afraid of them kind of people. But can you die for what you say you believe in? You say you believe in revival. You say you believe in a harvest. You say you believe that teenagers need to be delivered from drugs. And you say that women need to be delivered from all kind of stuff and men need to be delivered from all. But can you take a risk to go pick one up and bring him to church? I'm preaching. Whether you shout or not, I'm still preaching. See, we're too consumed about our little world and what our little house can get, what my little bank account can get, and what will benefit me. Had it not been for 56 men signing a Declaration of Independence, you wouldn't even be here today. You'd still be under British rule. But because 56 men were willing to give up their fortunes and their lives, you can sit here now and enjoy a freedom of worship. I'm making you uncomfortable. I want to make you uncomfortable. Comfortable people never do nothing for God. Only people who get uncomfortable will get tired of the status quo. That says, I'm sick and tired of nothing. I'm going to start doing something. I'm going to try to do something. If you never try, you never achieve. And so after feeding the 5,000, Jesus sends his disciples to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. They all had no problem getting into the ship. You know why they didn't have a problem getting in the ship? They probably had all been in a ship before. Some of them were fishermen. They knew how to handle the ship. There's no problem doing what they've already done before. Somebody experienced the sea. It's easy to do what you've already done before. It's no problem. There's no risk in doing what you've already done. It would be a risk for me to try to build a house. But for the Don, it's not a risk. I don't know the first thing about building a house. So for me to build a house is a tremendous risk because it may fall the day I start putting a 2x4 up. But a man that's done it before, it's not a risk. I got to nail every nail by faith. I got to do everything I can, the best I can. And so it's a total different atmosphere. Come on, somebody. So for me to do what I've always done is not a risk. Getting in the boat was not a risk. Our problem is we're comfortable doing something because that's what we've always done, and there's no risk in it. There's no risk in just coming to church. There's no risk in just coming here sitting on the pew. There's no risk just paying my tithes. There's no risk staying in my house. There's no risk not knocking on no doors. Why? Because I've never done that. Come on, somebody. That's what I've always done. If you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. It's easy to do what you've already done. Yet as they pursued the will of God, they found themselves in a life-threatening storm in the middle of the sea. I ain't going to preach on this, but just because your obedience doesn't mean that you won't face a storm. And so while they're trying to fulfill the will of God, they find themselves in the midst of a storm. And you can be right in the middle of God's will, and the storm hits you out of nowhere, and you're looking around going, I thought he told me, or I thought he told us. Don't you understand? Hell heard when God said, do this.
That's right. That's right.
It's amazing. I just talked with a pastor friend of mine Thursday night. I've seen him. And he has a bursting church. They're fixing to build a brand new sanctuary. They have the oldest daycare center, Christian daycare center in the Mississippi. They were the first Christian daycare center to start. His father started in their church. They had an accusation that someone that was on staff that had been there for 32 years, an elder woman smacked a child. They get the cameras out. They got to go before the state court or whatever, all that other kind of stuff. And finally, the time was over, the court looked at the man and the woman that made the accusation, and the pastor said, we knew this was bogus from the beginning, but we had to take care of this. And so while he's fighting all this garbage on the left side that frustrates him, he's planning on this side over here to build a building because they are bursting at the seams. I don't know how many they had prayed through the Holy Ghost over the weekend. And I looked at him and I said, isn't it amazing? While you fight and weep over here, you shout and dance over here. Do you understand that while you're in a slap dab in the middle of God's will, there's a storm hit your life? It's so you won't get lifted up and think you're the one doing it. Because when you're doing this, you can say, my God, look what we're doing. But then a storm hits you, go, my God, if it wasn't for God, we wouldn't have come out of this. And so it's the storm that keeps you balanced. The that to remind you that you're just a human being. And we still need Jesus. So just because you're obedient doesn't mean you're not going to fight things. Because you can be smack dab in the middle of God's will. And you can be losing your house and and your kids be backsliding. In the middle of God's will, you get diagnosed with a terminal disease. And you get your job moves overseas, and your finances are gone. You can be right in the middle of God's will, and your family be in turmoil. Right in the middle of God's will, and you're standing at a graveside and you're preaching a funeral with questions that won't even be answered until you get to eternity. Because that's just the way it is.
That's right. That's right.
It was in the midst of that storm. In the midst of that storm, Brother Rick, that Jesus comes walking in the fourth watch of the night. My question is, I want to know this. Why didn't you come in the first watch? Why didn't you come in the second watch? And why didn't you come in the third watch? Why did you make me wrestle this thing all night long? Maybe because it gets you to a point that you realize you can't get yourself out of this storm. You got to have something greater than your boat to get you out of this storm. Oh, come on, somebody. The boat got you in the sea, and the boat got you moving in the direction, but the boat can't get you out of the storm. And maybe the reason God lets us go through so much for so long is so that we come to the point that we realize that what I have cannot get me out of what I'm in. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough influence. I don't have enough ability to get myself out of this. All I can do is grab an oar. All I can do is grab a plank. All I can do is grab something to hold on and hope he shows up before the whole thing goes under. Because I understand I cannot get myself out of this thing. My God, help us, God. Help us, Lord. But I do know one thing, Sister Tracy. Before the boat goes down, Jesus is somewhere in this storm. I don't know when he's going to show up. I don't know how he's going to show up. I don't even know where he's going to show up. But I do know I'm in the will of God. And all I got to do is keep hanging on. All I got to do is stay. That's all right. All of you that's looking at me like I'm crazy, hang on. Life will hit you. You'll get a storm. And so it is here. Jesus comes walking on the water. And the disciples look out into the storm and they see a stranger and they become afraid. He's walking on the water and they think he's a spirit. Yeah. It's amazing that if you ain't careful, your little storm that you're in, I know it's big to you, it's always big to me, can blind you to who's with you in the storm. And you won't even recognize Jesus when he shows up. Yeah. I walked up to a girl in the prayer room. I walked past her in the prayer room and I went, ooh. I felt an angel standing there while she was kneeling down praying. So I turned around and go back. I tap her on the shoulder and she stands up and said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, I'm passing by you. I seen an angel, or I felt the angel of the Lord there. And she made this answer, well, I know that. And
what you don't know is why he's here. She kind of looked at me. I said, now do you? She got real quiet. I said, you think he's just come to make your goosebump machine work good? I said, this angel's covering you while you're praying. I said, do you understand why God sent this angel? I said, let me tell you why. I said, because when Jesus was stressed out, God, the angels, the Lord showed up to minister to him. I said, you're going through hell. And you're going to be bombarded with hell. And I said, this angel is to cover you so you can pray the way you need to pray so God can carry you to another level in prayer. And when I said that, it all unloaded. It's amazing how your storm can blind you to who's with you. Now we can have church here, or we can have a funeral. I don't want to have 2 funerals today. I've got one this afternoon. I come to have church this morning because I'm fixing to face hell for the next 2 minutes. Please help me have church. I'm not crying. I'm not moaning. I'm not even depressed. Would you please help your pastor have church this morning? Because I'm right dab in the middle of the will of God. I got weeping on one side, and I got rejoicing on the other side. I got to deal with the weeping for the next 2 or 3 days, but I'm going to do some more rejoicing somewhere. Help me rejoice right now, because I got to take care of things this afternoon and tomorrow. We're all going to face a storm. You just got to open up your eyes. Who's walking with you in the storm? He didn't just come for you and feel good for the real. He come to get you to the other side. So the storm can't stop you as long as you're in the wheel. Don't let your storm blind you to who's with you, because in blinding you, you'll think he forsook you and he's not coming. Because he may show up in a way that you can't see him. It may be a phone call that he shows up. It may be a visit that he shows up. It may be somebody in a grocery store that shows up. You better quit looking at everything around you and start looking for Jesus. Because somewhere in the storm, Jesus is going to show up. And it may be a letter in the mail. It may be a postcard to encourage. A phone call to lift you up. It may be a pat on your back. Somebody might just say, I love you. That you need to wake up and realize that was God trying to talk to you, to let you know I'm with you in the storm, and you're going to make it. And so, Jesus says, be not afraid, it is I. Even when he said, it is I, they did not believe him. For it was Simon Peter that said, Lord, if it's you, command me to come. He said, I don't know it's you. I know what I heard, but I don't know if this is you. Simon wasn't sure it was Jesus. He said, if it's you. It's amazing how storms can do things. It can cause you to question even Jesus, if it's you. The fear, it's not really the storm, it's the fear that causes you to question Jesus. The fear of what might happen, what could happen, what may happen, if it's you. And he said, if it's you, command me or bid me to come. Now watch this. Simon is willing to risk his life and not know for sure if it was Jesus. He was willing to put his life on the line at a simple word. Trina, and that was come. He was willing to risk everything he had on one word. Come. Come. And he wasn't even sure, Brother Rick, it was Jesus calling him. But there's one thing for sure that Simon did know. If that is you, the safest place for me to be is with you. This boat may sink, but you're standing out there on nothing. Safe, oh God, help us. You need to make up your mind. The safest place to be is out there with Jesus. Because everything in this life may fall apart. Everything may go to hell in a handbasket. But if you got next to Jesus, he'll never go down. Friends are going to forsake you. Family would disown you. You may lose everything you got in the bank account before it's all over. But if you got Jesus, you're in the safest place you can be. Yeah. So he's willing to risk his life. And so Jesus says, come. Come on, Simon. Now watch this. Look at somebody and say, you better pay attention. You're going to miss it. He says, come. Now watch this. This Jesus is asking Simon to do something he had never done before. It's one thing to be a fisherman. It's another thing to be a water walker.
That's right.
It's one thing to get in a boat and get in water. It's another when you start treading across the top of the water with nothing under you.
That's right.
And he's asking Simon to do something that physically he could not do and scientifically is impossible. He calls him out to do something that Simon has never done before, and he cannot do it physically. He's asking Simon to take a risk and try something he has never tried before. Walking on the water was not the miracle. The miracle was when everybody else behind him was going, you are a crazy man. You don't even know if that's Jesus. That could be the devil calling you out there. You don't know. That could be your grandmother calling you. That could be your daddy calling you. That could be pizza calling you. You don't know if that's Jesus. I know one thing. Whatever's floating, this thing that I'm in, it looks like it's going under. I got to test it. I got to know. Because if it's Jesus, I've got to know. The greatest thing was when he walked